So welcome everybody to Webinar Wednesday from Sight and Sound Technology. My name is Stuart Lawler, and as always, my colleague Carl Brayley is here with me. We're delighted to be back for another week, and this time Vispero are visiting. And we have Jan Bloem and we have Mr. Eric Damery. Delighted to have you back, guys. It's always exciting to have you guys here. I know it draws a large crowd, and there's lots to talk about today. In relation to JAWS and Zoom Text and Fusion. And Jan is going to give us an update on some new firmware coming to the focus. We've a lot to get through. So you're all welcome. We do have some emails, which I'm going to go through in a sec with Eric and just talk a little bit about some queries we received in advance of the session. But before I do that, we'd love to hear from you today. You can raise your hand by pressing Alt and Y if you would like to do that. And Carl is keeping a close eye on the raised hands, or you can, if you want, you can chat by pressing Alt and H, and we will be keeping an eye on the chat as well. And remember, you can check out all these Webinar Wednesday sessions afterwards on our YouTube channel, and keep an eye on our social media, Twitter and Facebook, both Sight and Sound UK and Sight and Sound Technology Ireland. We are actively putting stuff up there all the time. And just one more quick promo. Jan and I and some other colleagues, we're doing a Clubhouse event this coming Friday. If you're on Clubhouse, come to our tech surgery, 12:30 UK time. It's 1:30 for Jan. And for those who are here from the States, that's 7:30 a.m. in the Eastern time zone of the US. So Eric and Jan, you're welcome. Just before we get into the whole thing today, how are you both doing? Jan, how have you been? How's life?
Fine. Yeah, great. Super. Thanks for having us, Stuart. Always nice to be at Sight and Sound again. Eh?
We love having you guys.
Still virtual, but
indeed, yeah. I do miss seeing you. You both actually, because you've both been over. And let's go over to Florida. Eric, how are you doing? What's the weather like where you are?
Everything is great here. Today is a little overcast as I look out, but warm temperatures and what you would expect for Florida, I guess. So last night we were out. We actually are doing some meetings at the headquarters here in Clearwater. So we had about 50 people in the office yesterday. First time since Friday the 13th, excuse me.
Wow.
Of 2020. So it was really good. It was good to see everybody. And last night we, some of us had some great dinner and stood on the shorelines and felt the wonderful breeze. And it was really good to be around other people and socialize in person. So we're looking forward to getting to Dublin again real soon.
Hey, definitely. We're looking forward to having you over, hopefully in the not too distant future. Okay, guys, we have a lot to get through, and I'm going to start by getting through some emails because people did get in touch with us. And thank you to those people who emailed in questions in advance. And then we'll go around to you guys for some updates, and then we'll go back to Carl for, I'm sure, many raised hands and questions. Now, we got a question from John Morris, and John is a Zoom Text Fusion user. And I suppose, Eric, the nub of his question is, he's saying it's great to have all these updates, but would it not be better if you guys concentrated your efforts on fixing some problems that have been there for quite a while? He said since upgrading to Windows 10, he's had a number of problems. He has fed these back to us, I think, in the past. And he just wonders, should there be more testing, or what can you tell us about maybe problems that have been lying around for a little while and when they might be fixed?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks to John Morris and others that have been using Zoom Text and moving into Fusion and looking at it. It's a big transition. And, you know, we're under constant development and test here. We have engineers working nonstop, and they're currently working not only on 2022 that'll be coming out later this year, but they're also still working on 2021. We're always trying to adjust it. And when we do post an update, you will find off the Freedom Scientific homepage under a heading called Software Updates, links to the What's New page where we talk about what changes have been made. And the majority of those things that get listed on there for the updates that come out are bug fixes, because we're constantly trying to address issues and fix them. Now, for Zoom Text and Fusion in particular, so Fusion is a combination of running JAWS and Zoom Text, and historically, those two products have both been capturing data from the screen or trying to interact with the APIs, the application interfaces provided by Microsoft, provided by browsers and things like that. And we've had different techniques to do it. We've done it in serial. In other words, one product queries, then the other products would query. And so we've been working over the past year and a half or so, and we've come up with a way of doing a single query to these APIs like UI automation, getting the information, and then letting both of our products interact with it, which will which is starting to show some dividends. And we started it with Office applications, but we're expanding it to the rest of the operating system and other applications so that we can be a little more efficient, faster, and hopefully not run into some of these hiccups. Now, Fusion, of course, is dependent on many things: the video driver, the processing power, the amount of RAM, what antivirus is being run, what video chipset is being used, and those kinds of issues vary from computer to computer, user to user. And then add on top of that, you've got Microsoft updating Windows 10 about every couple of weeks. A new update comes out, and about every 6 to 8 months, they do a pretty major version. And this has been going on now for 4 to 5 years. And each time they do those updates, they're improving and making modifications to their UIA in the operating system. And so when we're talking to individuals, one of the first things we're always trying to find out is exactly what version of Windows 10 do you have. So what I would encourage John and others, stay up to date with Windows 10, because we're moving as quick as we can, but our development efforts are happening with the latest updates that Microsoft is doing. And when we report an issue to them, we're really having to report issues based on what version of Windows 10, and Microsoft is more apt to make modifications to the later releases, not the older ones. So I think that was a long way of saying, believe me, we are working really hard to try and get some of those issues resolved, and we're making headway. We are making progress, and continue to work with Sight and Sound, continue to work with our support department, and we'll continue to reach out to you. And if you've got reproducible issues that you can do on demand, those are the most important for us. We'll be happy to continue to work until we get them completely resolved.
All right, that's brilliant, Eric. And John, if you get in touch with our tech support at any time as well, and I know you have in the past, but keep in touch with them so that we can flag these things as well, if they're still happening to you. Now, Eric, the next question is from David Ray, and he says, and you're going to like this guy, he says, last time you had the wonderful Eric on, he said he welcomed suggestions. So David, you're in there already. But he says what he would like is a JAWS junk detector that would filter out meaningless characters and numbers from, for example, long URLs. So he said, surely if JAWS can detect misspelling, it can detect it can detect strings of numbers and letters that are meaningless. You could toggle this on or off. Sounds like a great idea for a feature to me. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it really does. And it's actually one that we've talked about here on several occasions. We were always thinking about it in terms of the address bar. So whenever you move focus to the address bar, if there was a long URL in there, let's get to what matters in the URL and try and identify that and just speak it and not have to say the rest of it, but then give you an opportunity to move into it and walk through it by character. So what I think he's describing is a way so that when you're on an email message or a web page and you run across one of those links to a YouTube video or something that's got all the numbers, maybe find a way to recognize what it is, where it's going, and just tell the user a brief description like YouTube video or something like that, rather than read it, but then also give them an opportunity to read it or select it or do whatever they need with it. So yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I'm getting that one on the suggestion list again and bring it back up. It is a good, useful feature.
Okay, brilliant. There you go. Thanks for that email, David. And the last one we have for now came from Jonathan Abro, and I've spoken with Jonathan before, a lovely, lovely guy. And he had two queries. One is, JAWS is able to tell us when there's new software updates available. Can it not tell us when our SMA is due to expire to make sure that we will be able to renew in time and don't miss an SMA? It's an interesting query. And the second question, he says, given the popularity of free Windows screen readers like NVDA and Windows Narrator, where do you see the future of JAWS for the home user who has to renew their SMA every year? And I said, but maybe he's kind of asking there, why would I, or what would make me do that when the free screen readers are getting, are out there and not getting good?
Sure. So for the first question, yes, this is a direction that we are heading with some auto notifications. Now, in the US, for our home market that we've moved to the portal, which I know individuals are interested in when we're going to be able to get portal access available to others. And I promise you it is coming. We have ongoing development efforts. We've got multiple engineers working on that front right now. And not just the portal style, but we're actually working on making sure the portal can deliver ILM licenses in the future. And once the portal's doing this, the portal is the thing that is the notification for our users here in the US. So now, if you have one of those licenses, the portal keeps track of it, recognizes the expiration date, and in the case of ILM, would have to recognize the version expiration and sends notification emails out to the person because they're registered with an email address. So I think what the user is actually hoping we would do is give a pop-up maybe at a certain date and time. So this is, you know how Windows has notifications that pop up. We're looking at consolidating some of the information that we share, like when an FSCast comes out, when an update comes out, when your license is needing to be updated, and put that stuff all into some notification center, not so that you will always be getting a pop-up, but a way that you can always jump into the help menu and read what the latest notifications are that were sent to you, either broadly because you're a user of Freedom Scientific products, or personally because your serial number needs to get an SMA renewal, something like that. So it'll be right in some notification center that you can always go back and refer to at your leisure when the time, when you have a few minutes free and can get to it rather than being interrupted while you're working.
Okay, brilliant. So it is on the cards, which is great,
yeah.
Great to hear. Okay, thanks, Eric, and thanks to everybody for emailing in. We will have lots of time for
one other question.
Yeah,
there was one other question there about NVDA and Narrator.
Oh yes.
And so where do we fit in the future? You know, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and I remember when Narrator came out back in 1997 timeframe, and I remember thinking when we got to 2000 and Freedom Scientific got formed, I remember thinking, wow, I wonder when Microsoft's going to replace JAWS with Narrator. And of course, time has marched on. And in the case of Narrator, while it is built in and it has improved, it is still there as an emergency product. In my view, I don't really see it as something that people are going to want to use all the time. It may be something that a teacher will start a student with at some point, but for productivity purposes, getting a product that's loaded with some productivity features, things like skim reading, things like built-in OCR capability, things like the ability to work with the magnification software correctly. outputting to Braille. And boy, some of the things that we're coming up with on the Braille side, you guys will have to watch for over the course of the next 3 months or so. Once we get into 2022, we've got some really good things coming, especially for folks who are bilingual on the Braille side. So there's always room for improvement. And in the past, I can remember 20 years ago, we would spend an awful lot of time just trying to figure out how to scrape the screen, intercept information, and not blue screen your computer. And today, it's much less about that and more about, okay, Microsoft OS is going to deliver the basic information to all of the screen readers. Then it's up to the screen reader to decide how to filter it and make it a little more palatable for the consumer. It's not always just about accessibility, it's about usability. And I think this is where we will continue to focus. And we've done things like that with our command search in JAWS. We'll be expanding upon command search down the road here and bringing it across all 3 products to make it much easier to use, much like Microsoft has added Alt Q in the Office suite. Or is it Windows Q or Alt Q to be able to get right to the search bar?
Yeah, Alt Q. Yeah.
Alt Q, type in the feature you're looking
Mm.
for and get the list, so you don't have to go searching through a toolbar to find something. Command search will work the same way within our technology across the entire suite. So
Okay.
I think there's plenty of room for improvement. I think there's plenty of room in the market for everybody. And I've always told our sales team who has asked me this question, I think it's great that there's competition, that there's other products out there. They're simply going to expand the market and help bring more people in. If people have to be convinced that this stuff is working, and you got to give it a shot.
Mhm.
And today it is expanding. It's getting better all the time.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Eric. Now
Yep.
we're going to just give Eric a rest for a minute because Jan, I'd like to turn to Braille for a sec, if you don't mind. And I know you've been sort of chatting to me off air, and it's sort of very interesting about some updates that are coming to the Focus line of displays, the 5th gen displays, pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, pretty soon. Apologies for my background noise. We are in my well. This is the advantage of working from home. You know, we have some constructions here going on. And
Okay, no problem. No problem.
Okay. But yeah, for the Focus 5, we have an update coming soon. We had recently a webinar during a virtual site city to our dealer network. And we will introduce some new features. For instance, we are going to introduce a new way of pairing your Braille display with Bluetooth. And that is, of course, to pair, and then you need to fill in this pin code, the 4 zeros. We introduce now, and that's going to be the default setting, that you don't need to have this pin code. So you simply can see the Bluetooth ID or your Focus Blue in your list of available Bluetooth devices in VoiceOver or with JAWS on a Windows machine. And then you click on the connect button, and then you don't need to fill in your PIN code. And then, everything is running and automatically installed. So that's a big improvement. And it makes connecting to your Focus Blue much more easier to do that with hopping around the 4 zeros and then find the connect button, etc. But now it's all done. So that's a major improvement to make it more simple. Then we have also introduced a single hand mode as really a request from, fortunately not all the users, of course, but if you are in that position that you have only one single hand to use, now it's possible to do that. It's done with the modifier of the space bar, and all the settings are being done, and keystrokes are done from the Braille display. So it's operating system independent. So for iOS, Android, and Windows, it's all possible to do that. And then you can operate your Focus Blue single hand mode. And then we have introduced some features into a Scratchpad. And Scratchpad is the simple notepad of the Focus Blue. You can store your files on the built-in mini SD card. There was a file size limitation, and that has been significantly improved. You can do that for reading files, BRF files or BRL or BRA files, and also TXT files up to 100 MB. So, well, that's a big a book, I would say. And when you also want to edit those files, then you have a maximum file size of 10 MB. So you can edit TXT, BRL and BRA files, and also BRF files up to 10 MB, and then you can do that. Then within the file editor on the Focus, we have introduced also word wrap. So for reading books, that's really a big improvement, that you don't need to worry about cut off words at the end of your Braille display. And we have also introduced a nice feature. It is to be having access to a second or the to an opened the file. So, and then you can copy and paste or select and copy and paste also from and to the other file. But when you're reading, especially done for students, when you're reading a book, at the same time, you can switch to a note file, or that you can make your notes into another file. So you don't need to close your file and save it and open it again, or to do it on another device. No, on simple one device, you can have two files open on the same time. And that's really a big advantage. So
Okay, fantastic.
Those are the really things. And then you can also disable the dot 7 and 8 went to make reading much more easier, when you're used to only 6 dots, and when you are get rid of the capital signs and other the 8 dot signs in Braille. But that's more for simplifying the reading comfort. But those are in general the sneaky or not sneaky. It is all general published yet within our dealer network, and we hope to release it a little bit soon. We had some delay due to the MDR implementation, but that has been done for all the European. The Great Britain, well, Ireland has also to do with MDR, of course, but UK not. But we had some delay, but now it's all settled. So we are waiting to release it soon.
Brilliant. So it'll be out soon. People should keep an eye on the on the website, and we'll certainly let people know when it's out as well. Jan, thanks. I'm really excited to see that update. It's going to be great. So, right, let's go back to Eric. Eric, I suppose one of the things I've been really excited about in the last update, I think was it the May update you guys brought out, was this idea of being able to skim through long email conversations. I use it every day and I love the feature. Did you want to just talk a little bit about it for people who may not know about it?
Sure, let me explain that. It is a good feature. It's something that we implemented for users of Outlook. So if you have Office 365, and the whole idea is that oftentimes we're collaborating with others. We're back and forth in an email, we're replying, we're forwarding. There's multiple people in the thread. And sometimes these emails get very long because of all the back and forth. And then all of a sudden you get brought into the email thread and you have to dig down through the email to find out what the topic was to begin with sometimes, and read some of those details. If you know what you're looking for, of course, you could use find, but generally you start at the top and you start making your way through, and every header that you run across, there's the person who it came from, and there's everybody who is CC'd on that email, their name and their email address, and each one is read on a separate line. So it was very time consuming to move through these emails. And trust me, it's time consuming for sighted users as well, because it's difficult to be able to navigate through these things and find the important one, because the headers take up a great deal of room on the screen. But if you're a blind user, obviously it's really slow. So we created some logic that allows the user to use a quick navigation key in emails that they're reading, not while they're composing. So if you open an email, you're actually in virtual and you can press the letter N. And if this is an email that had a reply or a forward, and you're in Outlook 365, then it will skip down past the header, find the first line of text below the next header, land on it with the virtual cursor, and tell you who sent this particular piece of the email thread and when they sent it. And then it will read the first line. And of course, you can interrupt it at any point and just start to up and down arrow through what they wrote. Or you can hit N and it will skip past and go find the next one and put you on that. And at some point, if you want to move back, you can use a Shift N. And once you've moved to a section in an email and you're reading it, if you forget exactly who sent this piece, you can do an Alt-1 and it will tell you who sent that piece of the email, or an Alt-2 will tell you when they sent it. If you want to get back to understand who sent the entire email to you recently, you have to go all the way back up to the top of the email. Then you can do Alt-1, Alt-2, and so forth to get the heading information for the entire email that was just sent to you. So that's a little bit about the feature. Again, it focuses on people who run Outlook, and in May it focused on emails that you had received from within Outlook. So if somebody was in that email thread, but they were sending it from maybe an iOS email client or some Gmail client, then you wouldn't necessarily, this feature wasn't necessarily working. For the July update, we believe we'll have it working for those. But you will need to be in Outlook to use this feature going forward. In the future, we will look at adding it to some other email clients, but for right now, it's Outlook is the majority of our users out there. So great feature, and it's there for JAWS, and it's there for Fusion users. So if you're using Fusion, it will also track as you navigate. So when you hit N, it'll track into the magnified view the next section of the email.
I kind of think, Eric, it's one of those features that once you start using, you can say, how did I manage without this? You've been using it for a few days, you know? So
yes, you ain't kidding. And these are the kinds of things, you know, back to that question of where do you see yourselves in the future with Narrator and NVDA out there? This is where I see us. We're going to do these kinds of productivity features to make it, you won't want to do without it. That's our goal.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and just the other one that was on my list, and then I know you had some. Yeah,
Stuart, can I also add that the integration with the focus is then also nicely? Yeah,
yes, I forgot that.
Yeah, that's also yeah. If you can do that, Eric, that would be
nice.
Sure,
yeah. So if you're running with a focus braille display, and you want to keep your hands on the display rather than going back to the keyboard or having to do the letter N on a braille keyboard, you want to keep your hand on the braille line, we've got a feature on the focus display on the right side. There's a up and down rocker bar, and you can usually toggle between is JAWS going to read by sentence or by line or by paragraph. And if you're in Outlook and you hit that toggle, you'll find there's a fourth option there called skipping ahead, or I forget what it's calling, but you'll know what it is. And if you get into that mode, then you can just hit the advanced button next to that rocker switch, and it will move to the next message for you. So you don't have to go up and type any letters.
Yeah, brilliant. So you can keep your hands on the braille display and just move your hands.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Jan, for that. That's really good. Eric, the voice assistant, you know, and it's an interesting feature. I know it's grown since you introduced it last year, but you made some major changes in the May update as well, didn't you?
We did. I'm trying to get things in there that will be really useful for folks, and we had to do a lot of work over the course of the past 4 or 5, 6 months to be able to make sure that it was all testable. So when we added something, we weren't breaking anything else, and we had to automate all that testing. So we spent a lot of time creating that infrastructure. And so now we could add new things in. And one of the first ones that I wanted to put in was the ability to select a block of text. So if you're running with the May update or later, and you're in an email or a web page or a Word document, wherever you might be, let's say you're on a web page and you're moving down and you find some list of things. Maybe it's a list of links, maybe it's a list of maybe it's a recipe or something. You're on a web page and you want to be able to select all the ingredients list off that recipe on the web page. You get to the very top of the list and you just wake up the voice assistant and say start selecting. Then you can just quickly down arrow through the list, get to the end of it, or you can jump down to the bottom of the element. And when you're on the last item, you move to the end of the last item, wake the voice assistant up again and say finish selection. And it will select the entire list. And then you can Control C, copy it to the clipboard and take it and do something with it. So putting in some of those features that people don't always remember what the keystrokes are, to be able to mark the beginning of a selection and then mark the end of the selection, and remembering how to do that with keystrokes. If you can do it with the voice assistant, I think we'll get people attracted to it. You can also, if you've read a web page, let's say you want to share with some web developer how poorly their web page sounds to you with a screen reader. Well, move to the area that you want to be able to share with them, go to the top of that area, wake up the voice assistant, say clear speech history, and then down arrow through the text on the web page where the problems really lie. And when you get to the end of it, wake up the voice assistant and say copy history to clipboard. And at that point, you can jump to an email and paste it in, and exactly what JAWS had spoken in that section of the web page will be pasted into the email message. And you can explain to them where you were on their web page and why it's so confusing to you. So that's just a little real world example of how you might use something like that. So being able to clear the speech history and then capture the speech history and do it without knowing keystrokes right from voice assistant can be very handy. And I think there's multiple examples of this: getting to the system tray, dealing with your battery level on your laptop. You can wake up the voice assistant and say, what's my battery level? Just little things like that.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I know we kind of teased people when we were promoting this session to say that we're going to talk a little bit about the July updates. I think you want to mention something around Zoom text. So would you like to take us through maybe a couple of things that we might like to look at for the next update?
Sure. So in the July update, we actually got quite a few improvements coming. I think a lot of bug fixes, but we've also expanded on, we hadn't really added much to Zoom Text in Fusion, but one of the things that we had talked about for quite a while was trying to come up with a quick way of getting to a feature, especially for mouse users who don't want to have to go back to the UI and don't want to have to remember a keystroke. So we added something called a quick access bar. And in the July update, we're expanding the quick access bar to give it a docking feature. And for those who can see the screen, why don't I see if I can share my screen here. Did that come across all right, Carl?
Carl might be muted.
He's muted.
Yeah. He may have had to. I think he may have had
yes,
to.
we've got it. Sorry,
okay.
I forgot I was muted. I do apologize.
Okay, so for those of you seeing the screen, and for those of you who are not, I'm going to describe what's going on. Excuse me. I had Zoom Text running, and if you look in my system, in my taskbar, you'll see the Zoom Text window is down here in the taskbar. I brought it up on the screen. I'm set to 1x magnification so that if somebody is sighted and looking at my screen, they're going to be able to see everything. But I don't necessarily want to have to come back to the UI to find the features that I use. So I leave it minimized. And on the right side of the screen, docked there is a quick access bar. Now, the quick access bar it's a narrow window. And right now it's actually attached to the right side of the screen, but not all the way to the top. So if I had something like Microsoft Word open, I could still get to the X and the minimize button and the maximize button with the mouse pointer. I can still see them and get to them. But this window sits on top and it stays there. And if I want to come over and change my speech rate or toggle between 1x and whatever my magnification level is, I can simply, I'll know where it is, and I can always just move my mouse over to it, get access to it, and then go back. Now, if on the other hand, I don't want to leave where I'm looking. If I'm looking on the left side of my screen here with my magnified view at 4x, I'm not going to see that window that's on the right-hand side because it's all the way to the right of my desktop rather than the right of the magnified view. It stays off the magnified view in this case. But if I want to bring it over to where I'm working, I can hold down the caps lock key and press the right mouse click. And I just did that, and it popped that quick access bar right to my location. Then I can go in here, access whatever item it is. Maybe I'm trying to speed it up or slow it down on speech. Maybe I want to change my color settings. Whatever I choose to do, I can do it right here. Then I can click right back in my application, and the quick access bar returns to the docked location. So this is a great little tool, and it'll always be available to the user, and they can get to it with caps lock right mouse click, or they can do the layered command, caps lock space bar, and hit the letter Q. In the future, and of course this is Zoom Text or Fusion, and if you're Fusion, you can get things into the quick access bar that are related to both Zoom Text and JAWS, so it can be beneficial there. Now, if you want to change the quick access bar, there is an opportunity to expand it, and you can see what all the pictures say. So there's a picture of a face there, and next to it, it says speech.
Voice enabled.
And if you click that item, the speech gets enabled for Zoom Text. If I click it again,
voice disabled.
Gets disabled. And you can see the speed up and slow down as a rabbit, a turtle, the color button, and there's text written beside each one of these, so you'll learn what they are. If you want to change what appears in your quick access bar, you can customize it. You can go in and you can delete something. So if I decide I don't want the voice assistant in my quick access bar, I can simply delete it and it goes away. And now when I go back to the quick access bar, there's no more voice assistant in the list, but maybe I want to add some other feature. So you go back into the settings and there's an add shortcut. You choose that and you can pick anything that's in your features list. Adjusting the window font, freeze windows, say the clipboard, save Zoom Text settings, whatever it is that you choose that you want to put in there. Let's say it's say clipboard. So I click on that, I say okay, okay out, and then say clipboard should show up. Of course it didn't. So that's the problem with doing a demonstration without testing it, right? I'll have to find out. Oh, I think I know why.
Voice enabled.
So because I had voice disabled, I thought maybe that's why it wouldn't show up, but I'm still not seeing it. So anyway, I'll go back and find out why that is. But you should be able to add any feature that's on that list into your quick access bar, and it'll always be on your screen.
Fusion 2000.
And if you choose to dock it, it'll always be docked. If you don't want it docked on the screen, if you'd rather just, I'll pull it up when I want it, if you go into preferences, there's an option to do that. But in July, you'll see that there's a docking option, and I believe it's on by default when we ship in July. So you'll have to give that a try and see how it works for you.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to remind people that if you want to raise your hand, you can press Alt and Y. Carl is keeping an eye on the raised hands, and you can also chat to us by pressing Alt and H. I know there's a few hands up. Will we just have a quick look, Carl, to see if we can get a couple of questions, and then if Eric wants to share some more stuff with us, we can. But I want to make sure we allow plenty of time for the Q&A. So I don't know if you want to give us a shout there.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly go through what's coming in the chat box. There's just one. There's a couple of just little messages. One from Graham Page. We've been told for the last 2 years that the portal is on its way. It seems to me it's fairly hard to justify the continuing delay.
Yeah, and I feel the same frustration. I answer the question quite a bit, and all I can tell you is we're working on it. We are working on migrating the ILM system into the portal and expanding the portal for others. So it will get there. There's a lot to do because we've got to make this work for every distributor in every locale and connect it to distributors' storefronts to be able to allow people to be able to purchase in the same fashion. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to it.
Brilliant, thank you for that.
Okay.
I've just got one from Peter Coe. He's from Kent Association for the Blind. Just a quick question. With regards to the US, the home users have the option to purchase the annual home license for JAWS, Zoom Text and Fusion. Would this be coming at any point to the UK, as it's a lot more affordable option for users?
I suppose that's
Yes,
sort of the
and-
same as the previous question in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I would add that I know that in the UK, just like in the US for a number of years, we ran specials, and we still do run specials in the summer months, and Sight and Sound has done the same around the month of July, I believe, where consumers have an opportunity at a very reduced price to get either A, caught up if they've fallen behind, or B, purchase into the SMA program and get discounted rates. So by all means, stay in contact with Sight and Sound, and the summer is quickly approaching. So I think there's always some sort of a home use program that Sight and Sound tries to incorporate into the summer convention season.
Yeah, and we're
I
just
think, yeah, go on.
sorry, Carl. I was going to say we're just working those out at the moment in relation to Site Village and what's going to happen. But I think if people keep an eye on our social media, or if you subscribe to our newsletters or on the website or podcast, whatever, you will hear about those very quickly.
Yeah, this will hit around August time, and it is a bargain. So
yeah,
it's so I think your answer to that one, Peter, was no. Just to make it easier.
But you will get a reduced home license, hopefully, if you keep in touch with us.
It works out around £125 for a full copy of JAWS.
Hmm.
I think when they run the promotion, and £99 for an SMA, or £99 for an upgrade, and that doesn't matter how old it is. It's literally £99, and it is a bargain. It's a lot of people double up on SMAs when they come through, so they'll buy like 4 years worth in one go, which Vispero kindly allow them to do. So it gives everyone a chance to get a really discounted rate, and it's a deal that is too good to turn down. And as Stuart said.
And in the US, they do the same thing. The people that we used to do it originally just at the NFB convention, and we did the NFB and the ACB convention. And now I think we've pretty much expanded it. So if you call our offices in the US, just like with you contact Sight and Sound, during that time period, you can get those special prices. So
we have just had I can't remember. It's not Bruce. It's Bruce's wife who's on there. Who'll be on the chat. She's from Canada, and obviously they aren't offered the same deals as what we can offer in the US and the UK.
Yeah, and I can't speak to the specifics on it, but I do think that we've tried to offer something for Canadian customers as well. And certainly if you reach out to me, I will reach out to the distributor up there. If this is something that you're purchasing for yourself at home, we'll by all means do whatever we can to extend some pricing for you in Canada too.
It's pretty much down to, like you say, that the reseller in that country, isn't it, to put it forward to you guys to do it.
It
rather
is,
than...
but we have an office there with the Optelec office, so we can coordinate something with them through our distribution channel up there.
Yeah, you see, that works out
Brilliant.
better for you. I think it's Caroline. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
It is Caroline. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's our competition winner.
She won our quiz. That's right. Yeah,
that's it. I remember.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're going to move on to Kawal. Kawal, the floor is yours. If you could unmute yourself.
Hi, Kawal. Kawal's been an attendee at our events before, so you'll just have to.
Okay.
We have
you
you.
hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got
Okay.
you.
I've got quite a few questions to ask, so I just forgive me if it's long.
Yeah, Kawal, do you mind me, because we've a lot of people with hands raised, so if you can try and merge them into as much as you can into one big question for Eric, that would probably be very helpful.
I'm going to try.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like Vispero to make some scripts available for Teams. Now, I don't want to offend anybody who does writing scripts, but it would be really great to have JAWS using the latest scripts for Teams, because I opened Teams the other day. I couldn't do anything with it. And I know a lot of people who use Microsoft Office who are in the working environments using Teams. The second thing is I'd like Vispero to introduce Word support with the Focus, so that you can write a Word document on your Focus Braille display, because I've got 2 of these. And then when you get back to your office, you can save your work in the scratch pad and then transfer it to your computer if you've got one. Then it could become like a proper kind of note taker, and you wouldn't have to invest in buying note takers. You can just use your Focus. The third point is to say is if Vispero invest in us, we'll invest in you. So if you could offer some apprenticeships to people who are looking for work around the world, like me, then, maybe something could happen. And the fourth thing is, I just want to say how great the Braille support is, because I know that Windows is the only thing that does great Braille support. I know there's other platforms like Mac and iOS, but I've been using the Mac for quite a long time, and still the Braille support isn't very good. So if I want to get serious work done, then I'm having to use Windows. And the fourth thing is, the last one, is there any way that we can plug the Braille display into any platform we like and it updates itself automatically? Otherwise, we have to keep downloading JAWS on a Word computer, Windows computer. Then we are free to do whatever we like, plug our Braille display into anything we like, and it updates. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kawal. Eric, I don't know if you want to take those in any
Yeah,
order.
let me try and go backwards.
Yeah.
Because so the last one I'm not quite clear on. Plugging the Braille display doesn't contain JAWS itself, and I know that the firmware on the Braille display doesn't update that often. So I'm not quite following what would update when you plug the Braille display into other things, like you plug the Braille display into a Mac or
let's say
Bluetooth
something
connection
on the Mac.
to. Yes.
Let's say something on the Mac or the iPhone downloaded the update for you, so it took the information.
Downloaded the update for what?
For your Braille display. I don't know if it could happen, but you'd have to plug it in.
Like if firmware was updated on the Braille display?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
I don't know how that could happen, but
it's not something that happens too often. We don't very often update firmware, and I think it is certainly something that we would look at updating maybe directly from our software programs. So if you were connected and one of our software programs was there, it could automatically download it. But I don't know if I'm not really sure how to answer that one. But I will say that we don't do a lot of updating of the firmware on the Braille display. It's a screen reading software, and it's the OSs that get the updates. You asked about Teams scripts. Now, I will tell you that Teams is something that we use as well, and many government agencies are looking to go this direction, and there's an awful lot of effort going on there. Not just ourselves internally, but also in meetings with the Teams group. We're talking with the accessibility person up there on a weekly basis, and he communicates with us his frustrations. We communicate to him our frustrations and the things that we'd like to see changed, and we help them to try and prioritize where they'll make those changes. Because it isn't just writing scripts. Unfortunately, if we went in and made script adjustments for all the problems within Teams, well, Teams is a moving target. They're constantly updating it. And so as soon as they make another change, the next month after our scripts came out, our scripts would be broken because they would change something in the background. So this is evolving. I can tell you to stay tuned, watch webinars, spend as much time as you can with the app, but be aware that it's going to be changing. It's going to change a lot over the next 6 months. You will see a lot of things coming down the road on the Teams side that's going to be updated, and we will continue to make sure that it works the best it possibly can with JAWS for Windows, because we are using it and we have a lot of users internal here. Word support built into Focus. So the ability to actually write a document within the Braille display would require an operating system and would require a real application other than a scratch pad. And I don't see that coming anytime soon. I don't think we're going to put an OS in there. And my best advice, and maybe Jan or Stuart could speak to this better, but my recommendation would be, while you're out and about, if you don't want to bring a computer, having a phone Bluetooth connected to it, you could take notes or write something within the phone and then take it from the phone to the PC later.
I was going to say something similar. I was also going to suggest that you could just write all your notes in the scratch pad and then go into Word when you get home. And there's an export feature in the scratch pad. Jan, you probably use that as well, and just export them directly over.
I just wanted to ask one more thing. When I meant about having a Word document in the scratch pad, what I meant was, really, can you not just save as and save it as a Word doc? That's all I meant.
Right, and that is actually pretty complicated to do, and requires a lot more than the firmware than we have in there at the moment. So I don't know that the possibility is there to do that.
Yeah, and it also it makes the Braille display more complex. But you can also, perhaps it's a nice suggestion. What I've been seeing by some colleagues already is the system Markdown. Probably, Stuart, you can help me on this one as well. I think we can do a kind of thing that you can implement using headings or some document structure, and that when you implement it in your text file, then you can use that also when you implement it or import it in your Word document.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like writing code. I'm a bit scared, Jan, because I thought you were going to ask me to describe it, and I don't know anything about it.
No, not describing. Sorry, Stuart.
But it's a bit, it's a bit like it's writing code, I suppose, to signify headings and different elements. So exactly. It might be worth us exploring maybe at some point. Brilliant. Thanks, Koal. That's great. Great to have your question, and thanks for coming along. Will we move on to the next person, Carl?
Yeah, we've got Andrew Summers, another regular.
Absolutely. Great to see Andrew again. From up in
Glasgow.
Yay, yeah. Great
Hello,
guy.
Eric. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Andrew. Good to see you.
Good to see you and good to hear you. A couple of questions about that docking bar that you were talking about, Eric. Will it come into JAWS alone or will it not?
Eventually, yes, it's going to be in JAWS. You probably wouldn't want it as a docked feature, or it's not something that you're going to take advantage of as a docked feature for a JAWS user, because it's really designed to attract the visual attention for a user to be able to interact with the mouse. But it will behave the same way. And for a sighted teacher who's trying to be able to use JAWS and can't remember keystrokes and doesn't remember how to get to things, they'll probably want to keep it docked there on the screen to be able to access different features within the screen reader if they're trying to use them. So yes, it will be there. The idea is to make it very easy to transition and very easy to go back and forth between one product and the next, because many trainers out there work with a variety of consumers, some with low vision skills that require them to really focus on a mouse, some with low vision skills, but they're good keyboarders and they could move on to a product like Fusion, and some that are visually impaired to the point where looking at the screen and trying to use a mouse doesn't make any sense. And in that case, JAWS becomes the best solution. Well, if those products all have much of the same capabilities and functionality, and you can get to features in the same way, it makes it much easier for the trainers to be able to move between those different products smoothly.
And just another quickie, I know it's nothing to do with JAWS, but the open book piece of software, are there going to be any more things happening with that?
So Open Book, which came from Arc and Stone and was developed back in the very early 1990s, I think 1990, 1991. It was worked on and first released around 1992 and 1993. And Open Book, over the years, we've updated the OCR engine, we've changed the installers, we've made sure that it worked for the operating systems. But as of today, that code is very old. The original architects and developers on that code are no longer around, and it's not something we want to open up and try and compile. There are things that we would have loved to have added to it. We did what we could when we could, but today I don't see that happening. What is going on though is, as you know, we started adding OCR components into JAWS and into Fusion, and those things will continue to expand. In fact, we're adding in for the 2022 release, you'll be seeing that we have the latest updated engine of OmniPage included in JAWS and Fusion. And we're changing the licensing model so that if you're using JAWS connected to a remote desktop connection, the JAWS that's on the remote desktop connection also has OCR capability, but it did not work in versions up until this point. But we are changing the licensing model thanks to the folks at Kofax that will allow you, while you're doing a remote desktop connection to JAWS on a server computer of some sort, it'll be able to OCR right on that server machine. So that if you're trying to access inaccessible PDF documents and so forth, that'll all work across the remote desktop. So we'll continue to improve upon our OCR capabilities, but it'll come in the form of our hardware products and our current developed software suite opposed to Open Book.
So what you're saying is that the Open Book software is now becoming obsolete.
Well, I'm saying it's not being updated, but it still works great. And for what it does, and if you're doing a lot of bulk scanning, if you're working with books, it works great. And it is something that we still sell quite a bit of Open Book, and the people that use it love it. But unfortunately, improvements aren't coming. But there's no reason it's going to go away anytime soon.
Good. Well, Andrew, it's good to hear you, Eric, and thanks a lot.
Yeah, great to hear you, Andrew. Thanks for your questions. Brilliant.
Right, I am quite conscious of the time ticking by now and people with prior appointments, so we're going to motor through these. Raymond Bruff.
Hey, afternoon, folks, and thank you, Eric and Jan. Sorry. Going back to the Outlook 365, Eric, you mentioned about the quick navigation, which could take you from one message to another, going through a thread. Did I hear you correctly when you said that works only when you initially open an email, or can you use that facility when you're replying and forwarding emails?
If you're in a compose state, then you can't jump down through the email message. So in other words, you've opened up an email, and in that email, there's lots of replies and forwards from other people. as long as you're in a state where you've just opened it and you're reading it, you're actually in a virtual state. You can use quick navigation keys at that point. So you can press N and you can move down through it. If, while you've got that message open, you do a Control R to start a reply, now you're in a compose state. You're in a PC cursor mode, so you can input text, and your quick navigation keys are off at that moment, so you can't use N to skip through that message. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is it technically not possible to be able to navigate through when you're doing a reply or a forward?
When you're in a compose state,
Yeah.
there is a way of being able to turn on navigation quick keys, but this particular feature isn't there yet. So whether or not we'll get to it, I don't know. Here's what I do. If I'm doing a reply to another mail that had a big thread, and then I need to get to, if I want to go down and review what was down below, maybe there was something I wanted to copy and paste and bring up into my compose area, I would just Alt-Tab back to the original message away from my reply message, and I can skip through that one, select it, then Alt-Tab right back to the compose message and paste it.
If any of the message fields in the thread contain links to websites, graphics, etc., does that affect the efficiency of the navigation?
It should not.
No.
The navigation is based on the headings, and this feature is designed around language solutions as well, so that even if you're using it in another country, the headings are different and the markup is different, but we have addressed that in the development cycle so that it should work across languages also. And in the July update, if somebody has been involved in this particular thread and they've been using an iOS device or Gmail in that response to that Outlook message, as long as you're in Outlook reading it, it should still be able to skip through those pieces. Okay?
Yeah, it's great. And it's quite ironic because
we lost him. He dropped.
Oh,
He
that
was
might
just about to say something.
that might have actually been my fault. Bear with
Carl,
me.
I think we'll blame you either way. Raymond, you're back. Can you unmute?
I went to lower hand, and I think I may have disabled talking.
Raymond, you were
Watch
just
out,
about to tell
Carl.
us something great.
yeah, well, thanks again, because it was about 2 or 3 years ago at Site Village when I actually mentioned this at one of the seminars. The question was, would this be possible? And at the time it wasn't, but obviously now it is.
In other words, everyone has Raymond to thank for this one.
Yay,
That was his
thank you, Raymond.
suggestion that came up. Thank you, Raymond.
Yeah.
Me and a few others probably.
I lose it.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah.
See what I did then.
But
Yes.
we can all ask for things, Eric, but it's the technical people that make it possible.
That's right. And the
Yep.
gentleman that worked on this particular feature, will give a shout out to him. I don't think he's with us here today, but he's Mohammed. And, somewhat, one of the questions earlier, if I can just go back, I just remembered there was a question that we didn't answer. It was about internships or apprenticeships with the company.
Oh, yeah.
So the gentleman that did the development for the N to move it forward and backward in an Outlook message is a user named Mohammed who lives in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam.
Oh, wow.
And we met Mohammed on FS Open Line.
Yeah.
He came on and he was asking us questions and making suggestions, and he was just a delightful user. And we opened up a conversation with him, and we thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if you wanted to come to work for us? What would you think? And he said that would be great. And he actually came and lived in Clearwater for several months, and got to know the team and got to know the systems. And now he's out there coding and working on great features. And boy, wait till 2022 comes out. I know that Mohammed is going to be working on another feature with another one of our developers that the feature is underway right now. We've got it going in the background, and I think this is one that lots of users have asked for over the years, and especially now that we're all working remotely and we've got Zoom. And how many of us have a headset? Like I know Carl's wearing a headset today with a speaker on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And boy, if you're a JAWS user, sometimes it's difficult to be able to listen to the webinar and listen to JAWS at the same time. Well, Mohammed helped us in adding that feature in to be able to lower the JAWS volume. But how about if we can set JAWS up to work on one channel while the other app works on another channel?
Wow.
What kind of a feature would that be? So watch for 2022. We got some good things coming.
And I think we have to bring this guy to the next time. Next time you guys are there, Jan, you should be able to organize that. Get Mohammed along to the session.
Yeah. He speaks Dutch, but also English, you know.
Okay, we can tell him. We can tell him how great he is.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, all right. Let's go back to the raised hands and see who else we have. We are conscious of everyone's time.
We've got Mr. Lawler.
The other Mr. Lawler from
Mr.
Dublin
Derry,
as well.
Mr. Derry
Hello,
Lawler.
how you keeping?
And we
Hiya,
know
Derry.
we know Derry can string it out a little bit, so I'm going to ask you to be very swift, Mr. Lawler.
I'm going to speak twice as fast. I know, great, great to hear. One quick question. Now that I've been working remotely, I use my laptop to remote desktop into my work laptop. Is there any way I can use two different synthesizers like Tom? When I use Tom at home, it seems to let Tom in work. I want to change the synthesizer completely. So I have a synthesizer, so I know which one I'm logging into. So I'm in my
You want to
laptop.
have a remote desktop connection, and when you're running with the JAWS that's on your work computer at the office, have one synthesizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that does work today.
No, because when I try it to the Tom, it changes to Tom on both machines.
Okay.
So I
But
knew
it
Tandem
makes
would do
sense.
that. I knew Tandem did that, but I thought remote desktop would allow it to happen. So I'll have to. Oh, you're right. It does. It's passing the voice string through.
Yeah.
Yep. I understand what you're asking for, and
I had to slow eloquence down on my home laptop and speed it up on my, so I know which one I'm logging. You know, if you make, because I have to go out to both machines. The one to save answer a phone call. I have to control
so that
that.
does. So excuse me, that does work. You can change the speech rate on one.
Yes. Yeah, not the
But
other.
you can't change the synthesizer voice
no.
itself.
No.
Have you tried like vocalizer expressive, but two different voices, the same
I've tried
synthesizer?
Ava, Tom. Yeah, I have. Yeah,
And that doesn't work.
No.
I'll ask
Yeah.
about that.
A good point. Yeah.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, listen, thanks for all your great work. I'm a big fan of JAWS. I've been using it since '95, and just thanks for everything. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Derry.
Thanks, Derry.
Cheers. I'm being as brief as I can now. I have five more questions.
You were wonderful.
Derry, you get a prize for being brief.
And at least Carl didn't shut you up.
No, that's right. That's what happens to Raymond.
Carl would never shut Derry up.
And can I say one
Praise
thing?
the day.
If Mohammed doesn't come to the next side and sound, the mountain can go to Mohammed. No, bye now.
Yay.
No.
We'll get Mohammed.
Yeah,
maybe we'll wait until the 2022 release is coming out.
Yeah.
And then we'll have him come on and explain some of it.
Well, I was going to suggest that we'll probably try to get you guys back for the 2022 around end of October. So
Sure.
maybe we could bring him with you. Bring him with you at that point. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Derry.
Excellent. Cheers,
Thank
Derek.
you.
Oh, I've stopped him speaking now.
Again.
What's new?
Right, I'm gonna just let you know the last person. There's 4 more hands up. I'm not accepting any more hands, unfortunately, because we really do need to get this concluded within the next 20 minutes. So, Mr. John Morris, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hello, yeah, can you hear it?
Hi, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a couple of quickies. One is I don't think I'm getting the best use from Fusion, so I could do with some kind of training or on screen training.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is I'm still using Office 2016, and it seems to be you're very much working towards supporting Office 365. Is it time for me to change and upgrade and get?
I certainly would, John. If You know, I always ask people, where are you going to be in 5 years? You still going to be running the computer in 5 years? And if you are, just get up to 365 and stay up to date on Windows 10. Because it's moving and moving quickly. So yes, there's a big difference between off the shelf 2016 and Office 365. Now, with Office 365, of course, you keep Word installed on your computer. Don't just run it in the cloud.
No.
So you get your Office 365 license for home and keep it installed on your computer, and you'll get those updates on a regular basis, and that's where you're going to get your best success.
Okay. And I say there are some training things, are there, to get
There's some, so we've got webinar
Yeah.
stuff up there, and you may listen to not just Fusion webinars, but JAWS webinars. And there's quite a bit of stuff on Office up there.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that they're doing one today or tomorrow, I think, on power tips for Word users.
Exactly. Yeah, I will share them with Stuart. We have some nice documents, Stuart, what you can put in the show notes or distribute them to your registered people. Some nice tip documents for Office, JAWS, Zoom Text, Fusion, etc., so that we can share.
Yeah, for anyone who's registered for today's webinar, I'm very happy to send those out to everybody. So yeah, we can organize that, Jan. Perfect.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Thank you,
John.
Thanks, John. Brilliant.
Yep.
Right. Next, Mika.
Mika Pakala from Massachusetts. How are you? Or
Good
have you
morning,
moved?
No, good morning. I'm coming to you from my home office in Boston, Massachusetts. Good to hear everybody.
Whoa.
Hi, Mika.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a really basic question, and I just want to
Mika,
understand.
Mika, wait a minute. I'm wearing my Boston Red Sox shirt too. I just wanted you to know that.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I think that meant be gentle.
Well, I'm really giving him, I think, what's going to be an easy question.
Oh, good, a softball.
Right. But I want to know more about Fusion. If I install Fusion on a machine, am I installing like a full copy of JAWS and Zoom Text, or like a mini copy of each? And then let's say I install Fusion, but then a month later we figure out the person needs JAWS. Do I need to install JAWS, or how does that all, what is Fusion really?
So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. And a lot of people would have such a question. So Fusion is not really a product. Fusion is a license type and an installation type. When you install it, it creates an icon on your desktop called Fusion, but it also creates an icon on your desktop for JAWS and for Zoom Text, because you've installed both JAWS and Zoom Text, full products on there. And it's great for corporations or schools to move into the Fusion realm because of two reasons. One, they have a single license to maintain, and it takes care of JAWS and Zoom Text users. So when a student comes along and sits down at the computer, they have access to run just Zoom Text, or they can run just JAWS, or if they want to run them together and they run it as Fusion, Fusion makes the two products aware of each other. So like, for instance, when you're running Fusion, there's a UI for Fusion that looks like Zoom Text. It's a different color and a different name in the title bar. And when you change the speech rate for Fusion in the Fusion UI, you're actually changing your JAWS speech rate, because it's JAWS providing all the speech in that case, including mouse echo and things like that. So there are differences, but yes, you're putting all three products on there. And let's say Fusion was installed, some student comes along or someone comes along and runs JAWS on the computer. And let's say an update just came out for all three products, and you're running just JAWS. The JAWS will say, hey, there's an update available. Would you like it? Yes. It'll download the update just for JAWS and put it on the computer. Now, if somebody had come along and they start Fusion, Fusion will look and see, your JAWS is up to date, but your Zoom Text is not. It'll say, there's an update available. Would you like it? Yes, I would. and it downloads and updates the Zoom text at the same time. So it'll take, and it doesn't have to do the JAWS because the JAWS was already done. So they're very much aware of each other. And if Fusion, I mean, the thing I really like about Fusion is that you don't really know what you're going to need, and what you need today might not be the same thing you need tomorrow. So having Fusion on there gives you the opportunity to go back and forth. You may just use Zoom text for a while, but then maybe you're going to use Microsoft Excel, and some of the JAWS capabilities would make using Excel much better. So you run it as Fusion. I hope that answers your question.
It did. Thank you.
Good.
Great. Thanks very much, Mika. I just want to reference a couple of things that are coming in on chat. Graham Page is saying that Microsoft Office 365 also gives you the 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage, which is another great reason to use it. And Kual was asking about getting in touch with somebody in Vispero. Eric, I think it's in relation to transcription I think it's back to the idea of work. I guess, Kual, if you email us, if you email Carl or myself, we'll be able to maybe help. I think that's the easiest way to manage that one. So just wanted to, I think we're up to date on the chat. And Carl, I don't know if you have any more hands.
Hi, Stuart. Yeah, we've got one more. Mark Smith is the last and lucky
last person of the day. Okay. So Mark. You might just need to unmute yourself.
He's unmute. Nope, he just muted himself. You were unmuted and you just muted. There you go.
Hi, Mark. We can hear you. We can hear JAWS.
Yeah, we hear your JAWS, Mark.
Yeah. We're not hearing you.
No.
So while Mark is trying to figure out his microphone there, you mentioned transcriptions. A couple of things. One is that we do provide, we hire a person that does transcriptions. It was somebody that was outside of this industry. We were very fortunate enough to find her, somebody that Glenn had heard because she did transcriptions of other technical podcasts that he had listened to, and he was fortunate enough to be able to get her to come in, and she does our transcriptions for FS Cast, FS Open Line, and so forth, and does a fantastic job. Unfortunately, she's quite busy, so it's hard to find somebody good like that, and it's difficult, as you can well imagine, to be able to, if you're not a screen reader user, to keep up with when demonstrations are happening and the screen reader is talking, to be able to describe that in the transcriptions. And if you haven't looked at our transcriptions on FSCast or FS Open Line, go to our homepage and find those and try them out. And Stuart, you had asked me a question that is it NCBI?
Yes.
Is doing transcriptions in Teams. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful idea. And I've already captured that question, and we're going to get that back in and put it right in front of the accessibility people at Microsoft. Because if that doesn't work, you should be able to, while a transcription is going on in Teams, as a focused Braille display user, JAWS should be able to capture that information and send it to the Braille display as it's coming across, and hopefully buffer it so that you can back up if you missed something.
Okay.
And then move forward. So I mean, that's a great idea, and there's no reason why that shouldn't be able to work.
That sounds great. That's brilliant. Thanks, Eric. So Mark, unfortunately, we'll just try once more in case we can unmute you. And other than that, we'll if you want to send in a question, Mark.
Julia has her hand up, so maybe we should take Mark down.
Try Julia. Okay.
And try Julia.
Sorry about that. The boss man came in and
you're taking over, Eric.
He is. Look, I said no more hands.
Oh yeah.
But Julia got hers up.
Okay, Julia.
I've been undermined. No, it's fine.
Let's give Julia a quick run, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, Julia.
Yes, I gather that Windows 11 is coming out towards the end of June. Will the new JAWS from July work with that?
I've seen a lot of chatter about this out there, and as I understand, there is no Windows 11. This is simply the next upgrade of Windows 10. Stuart, have you heard something different than
No,
I've heard?
I've heard the very same as you, that it's
Yeah,
going to be
so
Windows 10.
there gets to be these the rumors out there on these lists, and I know we were all expecting that they were going to do something like this, but no, in fact, they're not. Windows 10 is the operating system. Eventually, I think they'll just call it Windows. And as it's getting updated, and it is constantly being updated, we're staying right in front of it. So believe me, there's people at Microsoft in their early or later versions that are running our technology and Narrator. They're running all of our products against it as they're developing it. And believe me, they find plenty of problems. And we go back to the developers at Microsoft with those problems, both from our side and from their side, and we get them to make those modifications before they get pushed out to the public. So I would not expect that they're going to push anything out that's going to break your ability to use it with our technology anytime soon.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Julia, for the question. Great question, actually. And that is just about it. And Eric and Jan, obviously, thank you so much, guys, for spending time with us and for giving us lots and lots of information. There's lots of stuff to look forward to, both in the July update coming in version 2022 and some of the things that that Jan shared with us on focus updates, which will be also coming soon. So lots of stuff to look out for. Some nice messages coming in on the chat from people saying thank you. So thank you very much to everyone for attending.
Welcome.
This is it for Webinar Wednesday from this week. Thanks as always to Carl for helping to run the show extremely well.
Carl.
And we're back. We're actually not back in 2 weeks' time. Webinar Wednesday is taking a break at the end of June. So we're back next with you on the 14th of July. So have a good month off, a safe time off. And again, guys, thanks a million for joining us, Eric and Jan. Please come back with 2022 in end of October with Mohammed.
We will. Thanks, Stuart.
Okay.
Have a great summer, and make sure that you are all ready for the public beta in September.
Brilliant.
All right.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jan. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.